Africa is a continent of breathtaking landscapes, vibrant cultures, and remarkable resilience. But behind its captivating facade lies a question that has puzzled everyone for decades. A question countries like China, Vietnam, and Indonesia, who were on the same trajectory in the 1990s, have orchestrated a symphony of progress, but Africa finds itself in a different narrative. So, why is over 75% of Africa's population living in extreme poverty? Prepare to witness the startling dimensions of poverty in Africa, as we unveil the underlying causes and potential solutions in our quest to understand why this vast and diverse continent still grapples with unimaginable levels of deprivation. One of the major reasons for poverty in African countries is the resource curse, and one African country that suffers from this is the Democratic Republic of Congo. Deep within its verdant jungles lies a coveted treasure that fuels our modern world: cobalt. Cobalt, an essential element for lithium-ion batteries powering our smartphones and electric vehicles, has become the backbone of the technological revolution. But this resource, intended to uplift nations, has instead become a curse for the Congolese people. As cobalt mines flourish, economic inequality deepens. The riches that should benefit the entire nation are siphoned away by corrupt elites, leaving communities mired in poverty and despair. Their West African counterpart, Nigeria, also suffers the same fate. The most populous black nation is blessed with vast reserves of crude oil. Oil, often synonymous with wealth and power, have ignited dreams of prosperity for generations, as we've seen in other oil-producing countries across the continent. However, Nigeria's oil wealth has been a double-edged sword. Rampant corruption, mismanagement, and environmental degradation have overshadowed the promise of economic growth. The Niger Delta, once an ecological paradise, now battles devastating oil spills and pollution, robbing its inhabitants of their livelihoods. Meanwhile, a privileged few bask in opulence, perpetuating a vicious cycle of inequality. Speaking of inequality, South Africa's gold mines carry a haunting legacy. For centuries, gold mining has lured adventurers and explorers, yet the pursuit of this precious metal has come at a tremendous cost. Discrimination, forced labour, and inhumane conditions have scarred generations, leaving deep wounds that are yet to heal. But some would say it's because power was given to the wrong hands after independence. During the so-called lost decades of the 1970s to 1990s, while other developing regions were making significant strides in poverty eradication, Africa witnessed a rise in poverty rates. Today, many of the world's poorest countries are found on the African continent. One of the key factors impeding Africa's progress has been political instability and corruption. The Democratic Republic of Congo stands as a stark testament. Under the iron-fisted rule of Mobutu Sese Seko, the nation descended into perpetual turmoil. Despite its bountiful natural resources, rampant mismanagement and embezzlement drained the country's potential for development. Unbelievably, an astonishing sum of over $5 billion was embezzled during Mobutu's reign alone, shackling the Congolese people in a stranglehold of poverty. But the Congolese are not the only ones to share the same fate. Across the continent, dictatorial regimes acted as a chokehold on progress, perpetuating economic inequality. In Zimbabwe, the reign of Robert Mugabe transformed a once thriving nation into an economic battleground. As resources were squandered and corruption flourished, Zimbabwe's people paid the steep price. The consequences were nothing short of catastrophic, with the inflation rate soaring to an unimaginable 89.7 sextillion%, becoming the second highest hyperinflation in the history of the world. Ordinary citizens were left grappling to afford even the most basic necessities. The mismanagement of resources and the absence of accountability became an all-too-familiar refrain. Billions of dollars earmarked for public welfare vanished into the pockets of corrupt officials. This betrayal of trust perpetuated a vicious cycle of poverty, throttling the continent's potential for growth. As the African Union estimates, a staggering $148 billion are lost to corruption every year across the African continent. Just imagine the transformative impact these funds could have on education and healthcare. But that's not all. The lack of infrastructure plays a key role in the economics of Africa. Unlocking Africa's potential requires addressing crucial challenges, and one of the major roadblocks is inadequate infrastructure. Nigeria, the largest economy in Africa, faces a substantial gap between its electricity supply and demand. With an average available capacity of 6,000 megawatts, it falls short of distributing less than 4,000 megawatts daily to homes and businesses. This disparity is not unique to Nigeria. Across Africa, except for North Africa, where access to electricity is higher, the average is a mere 50%. This chronic power shortage cripples industrial development and renders African enterprises uncompetitive on the global stage. In addition to the electricity crisis, Africa's transportation infrastructure poses significant challenges. Poor road and rail networks hinder market transactions, cripple intra-African trade, and limit economic growth. Without efficient transportation, goods and services struggle to reach their intended destinations, hindering economic prosperity. A recent World Bank study revealed that inadequate infrastructure reduces national economic growth in many parts of Africa by 2 percentage points annually. This lack of development leads to a staggering 40% decrease in business productivity, making Africa the region with the lowest productivity levels worldwide. Despite numerous prevention and education campaigns, population growth in Africa continues at an astonishing rate, presenting a formidable challenge to the region's developmental efforts. A study by UNICEF reveals a startling projection. Africa's population is set to double by 2050, reaching an astounding 2 billion people. However, Africa's high fertility rates pose a unique dilemma, as this will hinder the translation of economic growth into significant per capita income increases. The repercussions are clear. High fertility rates mean that economic growth rates are spread thinner across a rapidly expanding population. As a result, per capita income increases become modest, further exacerbating the challenges faced by individuals and families striving to escape poverty's clutches. By 2030, a staggering 479 million Africans, constituting 28.1% of the population, will find themselves trapped in the grips of extreme poverty. Projections indicate that Central Africa will bear the heaviest burden, with an extreme poverty rate of 44.6%. In stark contrast, North Africa boasts a commendable achievement with a mere 1.8% extreme poverty rate. The journey towards poverty alleviation will be an uneven one. While some nations march towards meeting the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) by 2030, including Egypt, Gabon, Algeria, Tunisia, Mauritius, Seychelles, Morocco, and Libya, a disheartening truth emerges. 24 countries will continue to grapple with extreme poverty, with more than 30% of their populations living in these dire circumstances. But there's a way out for the continent. Africa's dependence on only its natural resources is one of its undoing. A very huge sector to explore is the agriculture sector, as this could alleviate poverty on the continent. Did you know that Africa's food imports have skyrocketed from a modest $10 billion in the early 2000s to a staggering $35 to $40 billion in recent years? This surge in imports is an opportunity waiting to be seized. By focusing on boosting the productivity of small-scale farmers and connecting them to better production techniques and lucrative markets, we can unleash their potential and lift them out of poverty. Imagine a future where Africa's farmers have the knowledge and resources to cultivate high-value crops, meeting the growing demand from urban centres. By investing in agricultural research and extension services, irrigation, and rural infrastructure, we can bridge the gap between traditional farming practices and modern innovation. The transformation starts with education and support. Across the continent, agricultural research and extension centres are at the forefront of this revolution. Cutting-edge technologies and best practices are being shared with farmers, empowering them to increase their yields, reduce post-harvest losses, and secure better livelihoods. Also, financing poverty reduction programs remains a challenge, but it's a challenge that can be overcome. One solution lies in ensuring that people and companies contribute their fair share through tax compliance. By maximising domestic revenue, countries can unlock critical resources needed to fund their poverty-fighting agenda. However, It's not just about raising more funds, it's about spending them effectively. Sadly, current spending in sectors crucial for poverty alleviation often falls short in efficiency and impact. We need to carefully analyse the poverty impact of different spending alternatives, ensuring that every dollar is directed towards sustainable and meaningful change. The fight against poverty is a shared responsibility. International support, in the form of Official Development Assistance, or ODA, plays a crucial role in Africa's development journey. Even with increased domestic revenue, ODA remains an essential piece of the puzzle, providing additional resources, expertise, and collaboration to complement local efforts. Africa's struggle with poverty is a complex issue rooted in historical, political, and socio-economic factors. However, the potential for change is immense. By implementing effective governance, investing in key sectors, and fostering a culture of innovation and collaboration, Africa can overcome its challenges and embark on a path of sustainable development. It's up to governments, international organizations, and individuals to join forces and make a difference. So, if you found this video intriguing, watch this video that explores the reasons why Norway is such an economic success. By understanding the factors that contributed to Norway's prosperity, we can gain valuable insights for tackling poverty on a global scale.